Tell us a little bit about a time where the child expected you to be a friend, but you knew it was important to be a parent.
Some of the biggest lessons are building trust and recognizing that trust goes both ways, and I didn't want to erode that trust.
The initial years are about building the values, building the boundaries, having them know that someone's got my back and it's okay for me to make a mistake as long as I can talk to my parent about it.
There's so many rebel children now because the parenting is too much of pampering and not values.
You become an overindulgent parent and call it friendship. That situation will never happen if they look at how to build trust from literally age 3 or 4, and parents do it consciously.
So here I have a rule of 4.
Yeah.
4 key or core values which parents have to inculcate for their own future, for the child's future.
We're going to talk today about parents as friends. What works, what doesn't work? Are parents meant to be friends? Where should we exert authority? Where we need to set boundaries? And where do we lead with pure emotion? And where do we become buddies? What is the line? When should we cross the line? When we shouldn't? What works and what hasn't worked? So here to talk about it with me is my co-host, Manoj Kohli. Manoj, tell us a little bit about a time where you had to face this challenge, where the child expected you to be a friend, but you knew it was important to be a parent. And take us through that experience.
No, this space is evolving, Shailja, because I believe that when we were children, it was a different situation. Now when we are parents, it's a different situation. And as I see in the next 10, 20 years, it will be very different. Because Gen Z is going behind us, and Gen T, that's what I call generation technology, is taking over the world.
Yes.
And I feel that this issue of friends is a very, very important issue for parents to take care, to be empathetic. Because a child wants parents to be empathetic, wants the parents to listen, wants the parents to appreciate the child's difficulties, especially in the era of technology. Many parents still believe in discipline as the core command of their life, but that is going behind us. That is not working now. Earlier it used to work when you used to say yes sir to your parents, but now it doesn't. So, in the present situation, I have seen friendship works much more. And friendship is in 2-3 parts. It's different at the younger, when younger children are young. For example, if your child is 5 or 3 or 6, it's different because I think you have to guide the child much more. Friendship may be a bit low. But as the child grows to 10, 12, 13, 15, I think friendship grows. And the discipline part, let me define that, is more about values. I feel that the boundary condition is the values boundary condition,
Absolutely.
not the so-called discipline, which is the earlier.
That, you cannot question me because I'm your parent.
Yes.
And I know that, some of us grew up with parents
Yes.
of that generation where it was, I'm your parent, how can you question me?
Yes.
I think today parents have to explain to their children why they are telling them to do something. Whereas in our case, there was no why.
Yeah.
I'm a parent, listen to me.
Yeah. So new children, the young present children are purpose-driven. They want to understand logic. They want to understand rationality of what you're saying, which is very good. I mean, I believe that's the right thing to happen. But what I have in my personal life employed is the nudging strategy. I nudge. Wherever I feel the child needs a bit of a tweak, you nudge. Nudge in a very nice way. Nudge in a friendly way. Nudge with some justification, some explanation, which also is nice. Not in a disciplined way. And I feel that nudging has worked very well because children don't mind it. The moment you come to a discipline kind of statement, children suddenly go back and say, oh, I'm being disciplined, which they don't accept.
But I'm going to come to asking you about the fact that it's such a fine line. I remember a time where I would ask my mom if I could go out to a friend's party. And my deadline was 9:30 to come back home. And those are, the back in the day kind of situations. But my deadline was 9:30. I had to come back at 9:30, where other kids had a deadline of 11 o'clock. And I remember asking my mom that, why do I have to come back at 9:30? And one of the things she said is, because that is the rules in our home. I'm not responsible for what happens in other people's homes, but I go to sleep by 10, and I'd like to see my child in bed before I go to sleep, knowing that you're safe and everything is okay. Now it's the peer pressure is so high on parents. So the child will come and say, well, so-and-so has that phone and I need that phone. Or so-and-so's parents allow them to drink at 16, so I should be allowed to drink at 16. And this situation is becoming really, really difficult for a lot of parents to deal with. We dealt with, absolute authority. We dealt with logical parents who explain to you that, listen, the reason I want you to come is this. But this situation where it's I have to have this, and the parent is struggling because they say, if I say no, I'm the bad parent. And I'm going to be the only bad parent in, that 20 friends that my kid has. I'm going to be the only bad parent. And that peer pressure is horrible. So sometimes you relent even against what you believe in. So where are the boundaries supposed to be really firm, that they don't budge? Those boundaries don't budge.
This is a very genuine struggle of parents. And it's not about peers, children peer. It's about parent peers. And I think parent peers should talk to each other also sometimes, because this 9:30, 10:30, 11:30 kind of differences between parents are telling on other parents who are so-called more disciplined. They are not disciplined. I mean, your mother was not disciplined. I mean, she just had a point of view because she slept at 10. So, which is fine, nothing wrong in it. I feel that some parents are very large-hearted and they have more trust, maybe. Some parents are not that large-hearted. Maybe they come from background which is different from those other parents. So it's better to talk. Parents, especially, let's say there are 4 or 5 friends, parents should talk to each other and reach to some kind of consensus. It can't be 100% same, but some kind of consensus. But individually, like me or you or other parents, we need to have not discipline boundary conditions, but values boundary conditions. I believe the only thing which goes beyond friendship, I mean, in normal case, I'll say 80 to 90% of my relationship with my child should be about friendship, which means we listen to each other, we understand each other, we empathize with each other.
We trust each other.
We trust each other fully. All that is fine. But 10%, it is a value boundary condition. It's about values. It's about good core values which you taught. You were taught when you were a child, and you taught your child when child was small.
Yeah.
And if the child is about to cross those value boundary conditions, that is the time it needs a discussion which is beyond friendship. It needs a bit more serious discussion. And it has happened with me.
Let me ask you a question a little differently, Manoj. What happens when your kid is making mistakes over and over again? For example, a child is lying about his whereabouts or what he's doing with his friends or she's doing with... And you're figuring out that this is happening over and over again. And you've done the whole, I've explained to you why this is not okay. I've shared with you that there are situations today in public schools, I'm sure it's everywhere, where children at a very young age are drinking. And, parents have got them drunk, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. It's very disturbing for a parent. And your first reaction is to just clamp down, ground them, discipline them, etc. Now, what do you do in a situation where you're having to face this over and over again and you don't seem to be getting through to your child?
Yeah, I've seen this happen many times with my friends and their children. I'm lucky that it didn't happen with my children. But what I have seen is 2, 3 things. Number one, the walk the talk of the parents should be clean. Parents cannot say this if they are playing cards every day,
Yeah.
if
True.
they are smoking every day, if they are drinking every day. They can't say this. They don't have a right to say it because child will rationally ask that question.
Yes.
So first is walk the talk. Parents have to walk the talk, have to keep self-restraint so that child can get a clear message. And a message is non-conflictual.
Yeah.
Because if you say you can't drink and I'm drinking every day or every second day, then child is getting a very conflicting message. What is this? So that is one. Second is trust. I feel that children love trust. And I've seen a friend of mine actually, when I was in school, used to keep his cigarette in my pocket always. And he used to smoke a lot. I never used to smoke. And I asked him one day, why? He said, because my parents don't trust me, so you keep the cigarette in your pocket and I'll take it whenever I want to smoke. Now, that showed that, and actually, once my mother, when she washed my shirt, she picked up some tobacco in my, and she never mistrusted me. She said, why is this? I said, somebody keeps it. She said, fine. So that means her trust was very good for me. I loved it. The children love trust. So one is walk the talk, second is trust. Third, when there's a repetition happening, like you said, repeating, then I think introducing another person, a friend or uncle or somebody whom child likes to counsel is much better, because then he or she is also hearing from somebody else. Because parents also need to use some other people around. Could be friend of the child, could be friend of the parent, could be somebody whom the child respects, so that he or she can repeat the same issue, same direction for the child in a nice, friendly way, and child will understand.
There are situations that parents deal with, Manoj, alcoholism, drug abuse, entitled children, where there's a repeated pattern of behavior. And in my experience, and I have experienced this also as a mother, it's very important for the parents to be on the same page. One parent may deal with the setting of the boundaries and being tough in situations like this, that some things are acceptable and some things are not, and the other parent needs to keep the door open, that look, you've got to come and talk to me and explain to me, why are you doing this over and over again? Why is this situation happening over and over again?
Which means that you should never use that too often. That's it. Children, sometimes parents use that.
The friendship that which is that should not be used too often, or do you think authority should?
Authority should be used less and on very important issues rather than on day-to-day small kind of issues.
I so agree with you.
Yeah, because otherwise children will get used to authority being the way of life, which
And
is not...
also learning how to circumvent it. They'll just get better and better and better at circumventing it.
But if you do it very rarely, as child will accept it, appreciate it, understand the logic. There's so many rebel children now because the parenting is too much of pampering and not values.
That's the other push and pull, in this whole friendship and parenting is, you want to be, you become an overindulgent parent and call it friendship, where you're willing to just go along with everything your child wants and give them everything that they want and really listen to everything that, the child gets into the parent's role, where they start driving everything in a family. And that's also a very dangerous situation.
So here I have a rule of 4.
Yeah.
Rule of 4 key or core values which parents have to inculcate, should inculcate for their own future, for the child's future, which I have always followed. first and foremost is the value of honesty. So if the parent walk the talk, which means parents speak honestly, child will also be honest, will be truthful always. And this is something parents should be so extra conscious of, that they should never lie, because child is observing them day and night. Second, the value of hard work, working hard, etc., because that leads to a good life in future. And the boy or a girl, the child, will also work hard in school, in studies, or in sports. Third is the value of humility. Very important for parent to be humble and respectful to everyone around them. Again, parent is the role model, so children are noticing everything they do. If they're disrespecting somebody, child will notice that and maybe disrespect somebody tomorrow. So be careful. And finally, hunger. And this is where your point comes up very well. The hunger of a child to do well, to excel, to do better every day should be high. The hunger is very important for success in life. And if you overindulge, as you said, that if you want to give a gift of 500 rupees and actually you give 5,000 rupees gift of such, just because you are absent or you're not present.
Yeah, that you can't buy the friendship
you
that
can't
you
buy
have
friendship.
with
Actually,
your child.
you're harming
Yeah.
the child's future. You're taking away the hunger because he or she knows that he doesn't deserve this expensive gift. But if he or she gets it, she will show off with her friends
And
in
it
school.
becomes a norm then, no?
Yeah.
That I'm going to get it even if I don't do well. Because it's, and I'm talking specifically from, working parents' perspective, working mothers, etc. There's a lot of working mother guilt. And I don't prescribe to it at all, but I do know that it exists. And a lot of times in that journey to be a friend to your child, you think you can overindulge them, and that's that's your way of being a friend, or you let a lot of things go which actually are value led, which are important, the boundaries that are actually important for you to emphasize. You actually let them go again in the name of friendship. Parents do it all the time. You've seen it, I've seen it. I'm sure we've slipped up at some point in time and done it ourselves. But those are the things that really harm children. When you, in the name of friendship, you allow boundaries to slide. Stretch.
It's better to spend more time rather than throw gifts. And for time, you need to maybe be slightly less successful. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if parents don't sacrifice, your parents and my parents have sacrificed so much for us. If today's parents want success at any cost, even the cost of child not developing into a good adult, then there is something seriously wrong.
So, to me, I feel that indulgence is not friendship, but communication and understanding your child is friendship. That's what we do with our friends, right? We don't indulge our friends at all, but we communicate a lot with them. We share with them, we ask them. And I think one of the key skills in this navigating these boundaries between parenting and friendship is asking your child the right questions. I mean, for school-going children, a very typical question that most parents ask is, how is school today? And that answer when they're younger is longer, and as they get older, it becomes fine, the same, right? And it's also about asking the right questions that, hey, what did you do in school today? What was like the best part of the day today for you in school? What was the worst part in school? Tell me what your friends are up to. What did you do in this class? And then also sharing, by the way, this is what I did at work today, and it was like super exciting, and I'm going to explain it to you in kids' language, what mommy did at work today. And it's about connecting. It's about finding that connection. Then it's very easy to kind of keep sidestepping I need to be parent, I need to be friend, I need to be... And when I say parent, I'm talking about the boundary setter. My philosophy of life has been, we're all parents all the time to our children. We're also friends, we're also mentors, we're also. But it's parent first.
Yeah, yeah. But in this case, particularly, if you tell your stories to them, honestly, in their language so that they understand, they will tell you their truthful stories.
Vulnerability. When you
Yeah.
share how naughty
Yeah.
you were and how
Yes.
much trouble you got
Yes,
into.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for example, I told my children that I was not a good student till 8th. And something happened at 9th onwards, I became a much better student. So it opens up their vulnerability by saying that, okay, I didn't do well. I'm sorry. Next time I'll try better. So I told them, I said, that's fine. Nothing wrong. You may not do well, but next time try better. Try more. Work harder. So I think that urge or fire in the belly to do better is very important, rather than show off that you are very strong and you're always good and you can never go wrong.
Yeah.
That's not the right thing to teach.
Yeah. True. What about culture and its implication on this whole thing? Because sometimes when we live in families where our parents are also living with us, we're trying to do this whole sidestep dance of parent and friend and parent and mentor and then mentor and friend. And they have this view about, if you're not going to discipline them now, you're going to regret it later. So that's also a reality. I mean, you have very indulgent grandparents and you have very strict authoritarian grandparents as well. What advice would you give parents in terms of navigating this, the child at one end and their parent at one end?
No, I believe that this is very healthy. I think children who have grandparents with them is a very, very positive and healthy thing. Because grandparents teach a lot of things which parents are not able to teach. Because they don't have time. They're in a rush of career. Yeah. The grandparents are more free, so they can teach them good things. My grandparent, for example, taught me so many big lessons of life, so many things. As I was washing the Gurdwara with my grandmother, and she taught me so many stories of Guru Nanak and what are the implications on life, and my grandfather. So all those things, I think I remember more than what my parents taught me. Because they had more time. And they were very, very friendly. They were very so-called indulgent. No, indulgent not in a negative way, in a good way. So I feel that children who come up with grandparents and parents together are lucky children, very lucky. And they get a discipline. For example, when I used to miss my school bus, my grandfather used to call me into his rajai, that you come and be with me. And when your father goes to office, then you come out. Because my father was very strict on school, not missing the school bus. So I had a great time. So there was a guy who always safeguarded me. And so children love it.
So what you're saying is what children really look for is safety, security. You said they love trust.
Yes.
They love two-way thing.
Yes.
You share, I share. That sort of
I
thing.
think
These are the things that build on
security. I think child becomes a secure child, secure adult. Because let me tell you, the complications you have seen in corporate life and I have seen in business life are primarily from insecure people, insecure children becoming insecure adults.
And then insecure leaders.
And that leads to a lot of complications through life, through their marriage and through their office work and through their business, etc., etc. So I think building secure children is a very critical objective for parents and grandparents both. Now what is happening in nuclear families is that the grandparents are not living with you. Parents are very busy in their careers. And the time which they spend with children is more on indulgence.
Yeah.
So actually, that the core of building a secure child is neglected.
Yeah.
So I feel that get your grandparents with you. I think I'll tell the parents to let the children spend as much time with grandparents, if not living with you, but wherever they're living, during vacation time, etc., etc. Secondly, please accept that success could be a bit less. Maybe some people can't accept it, but I think. But I think shaping a child who's very secure and good values is much more important than that one last 5% more success which I may get by not being with my child.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I agree with
it's
you.
not worth it. That 5%, 10% is not worth it. I think building a better child is much more.
Investing in your
in your
child's
future, in
mental
your-
health, physical, their
Absolutely.
development.
Their development. And I feel that trade-off has to be done by parents.
Yeah, I mean, I completely endorse that. And especially in joint, dual working families, not joint families, but dual work. Where both parents work. This is really important. And I'll bring us back to the core tenet of what we were discussing today: parents as friends. I think that it's a lot easier to have that, what you call, friend-led, open relationship with your child if you provide, and the family and the grandparents and the environment provides a lot of security for the child in their very early years, so that even they know that even if I fail, I have everybody here with me, and I can tell the truth about failing. And I'm never going to get punished for it, and I'm never going to get. And these are the small building blocks of trust. I mean, they initially start with how did you do in school? Then it's about lying. Then it's about these little building blocks of trust are really what takes you to, a 14, 15-year-old who's very well adjusted. Well, of course, they're children, they're teenagers. It's their job to experiment, to assert their individuality. They will do it. But you will never be unaware of what they're doing.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that is the goal for every parent.
That's the goal. And
I don't want to walk into my child's room and find my child, 3 or 4 children, my child's room drunk. There was an incident that happened last year in a large public school, which you and I discussed, where a 14-year-old girl and her friends were drunk, and the mother found them drunk in the room. Now, that situation will never happen if they look at how to build trust from literally age 3 or 4, and parents do it consciously. Parents don't want to do all of this, and then suddenly they wake up when the kid is 14 years old and they're doing something completely out of the ordinary, and the parents are like, why is this happening?
Yeah. So this incident and similar incidents reflect a trust gap.
Yeah.
And trust is not something which is a overnight thing. Trust is something which needs irrigation. It has to be irrigated. It has to be built on. It has to be shaped slowly. Slowly by many, many decisions, many, many actions which parents take. To the point that the child nearly blind trusts the parent. I mean, if not fully, but... So I feel that if child cannot open up, that means parents have slipped somewhere.
So all the way from New Zealand, joining us today is Carmen on The Good Parent. Carmen, it's wonderful to have you.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
So we're going to talk about Carmen's experiences as one of the most prolific CEOs in New Zealand and a mom to 4 children, Isabella, Daniela, Arabella, and Zico. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the theme of the podcast, Carmen. It is about parents being friends. And where do you draw the boundaries? Where do you need to exert authority? And I wanted to ask you that, you have children across different age groups. When is it that you first decided, okay, at what age is it that threshold of not teaching them anymore, but being a friend to them? What is the age threshold that works?
Thank you, and really great questions, and well done on remembering all 4 of my children. Yes, they're all teenagers now, and it is a real, good question, because I think it's always a balance, isn't it? And I was thinking about that question, and I think it's really once they start hitting the later teenage years that their expectation on what they want to share with you and what they're wanting your response to be does change. And so I think that sort of sets the boundaries as well. And then there's also this balance of how do we build resilience to let them make their own decisions or their own mistakes as such, but without, letting them make big mistakes. And I think probably some of the biggest lessons are building trust and recognizing that you've taught them the values that are important, and you have to trust that you've done that, and that trust goes both ways. So I think that's when for us, it really changed a little bit once they started having mid-teens, when they start driving, being allowed to have alcohol, and being more independent. Then you actually do need to have so much trust, and you do need to have that friendship that they feel they're going to share information with you and not be in trouble.
Do you have any experiences that you can share where you felt that these boundaries blurred and it didn't quite kind of work out the way that you expected it to? And what was a lesson from that?
I think one example was one of my daughters went to a festival, and she was telling us what happened, and she saw other children that had too much to drink, and then she ended up helping them and doing all these things. And as she was telling the story, I was panicking, going, oh my goodness, and I didn't want her to be in that environment, and I didn't even know this, and I wasn't there to help. And as she told the story and said what she did next, I actually realized she did everything right, and I had taught her the right values. And so probably the control freak in us, or the parenting in us, is fully panicking on some of these things, but actually recognizing that they're okay. It was a real lesson learned. And another really testing one was on the social media, which I think is a learning for all of us. You mentioned, when do we stop being a parent and start being a friend, and how does that change? Well, I think it's always evolving, because the world that we're living in today is such a different world. None of us grew up with social media the way we're seeing it today. And that reminds me of another example where one of my children shared something that a child in their class had asked somebody else to share on social media, which was inappropriate. And again, we thought, we're going to have to tell the teacher and that child's parent that was happening. And again, when I said, well, what did you do and what happened next? And just try to stay calm and ask quite calming questions without being judgy or, really being a parent, more actually a conversational tone. Again, they did everything right, and I didn't want to erode that trust, and there was no need for us to go and escalate it further, because they'd problem solved themselves. So I think those are the lessons that you're kind of learning on the job.
So, and that's the tricky one, right? When you decide that now they need authority and discipline and boundaries, and I need to reinforce the boundaries because it's not working out. And then I need to switch back to being mommy friend the next day. And that's the tricky part to navigate. And I think that's what a lot of parents struggle with, that they tend to either stay in the authoritarian figure, and then they try occasionally to be the friend, and that doesn't work. Or I'm so buddy with my kid that when I try to set boundaries, they're not listening to me at all. But I think it's easier when you're doing this all the time. And I love what you said, that the initial years are about building the values, building the boundaries, reinforcing them, drilling it into them, what is right and what is wrong. And trust, letting them fail occasionally, and having them know that someone's got my back, and it's okay for me to make a mistake. It's okay if I did something wrong, as long as I can talk to my parent about it.
Exactly. And I think there's so many examples, like my children have always loved cooking and baking. And, if they're in the kitchen helping me when they were a young age, and, they're making a mess, that's okay. I can wipe icing off the floor, or they drop a glass and it breaks. I'm sure they didn't do it intentionally. I'm not going to get upset or sweat the small stuff. But if I say don't touch the stove, and they start putting their finger, and I'm not clear, I'm putting them in a situation of risk. This is hot. Actually, if you're coming in the kitchen, you don't touch this. And, it's interesting, because when you don't see parents with that same level of discipline, it makes you nervous from a safety perspective. So I think, that you can use tone and be clear and think about your communication. When am I buddy? And I'm filling my bucket all the time so they know I love them. But actually, when am I telling you something that is important and you need to listen because I'm your mom and I love you more than anyone in the world? And, that example of them cooking in the kitchen is a classic one. So, whereas you see, as I say, it makes me nervous sometimes when you can see someone's child's not listening and then they're going to come and put their hand on the oven or, like just high danger. And I'm like, I probably prefer them not to be in my kitchen while I'm cooking if you can't control your child and they're not going to listen. And everybody is allowed to bring up their children their own way. But those things, when you're by a swimming pool and you're saying you don't get in, then they have to know when to listen. And I think if anyone's had a pet, if you don't discipline that dog, he is going to pee on the corner of your couch all day, every day. You need to teach him that is not okay, and you need to wait to go and pee outside. And you need to teach him that is wrong. And that doesn't make you a bad parent or a bad pet owner. It's if you don't teach him, that's what he's going to do. And so, I use this analogy with my staff. If you don't tell somebody they're not doing the right behavior, they're not going to know. And if you're condoning it, they're going to keep on doing it. So, actually explaining your expectations and why is really important, and being really clear on those. It's not like you can pee on my couch on the corner sometimes, and sometimes when it's sunny, I'm going to take you for a walk. You've got to be consistent, and that's the other important point.
Yeah, I think that Manoj and we spoke a lot about the trust, and we spoke a lot about parents being role models and so on and so forth. And I think the key message there is consistency. When you're consistently saying the same things over and over again, and you're demonstrating consistent behavior with them, is when the boundaries get set. And then it's so much easier for you to transition into friend mode, because you know that you've set the boundaries and you trust that they're not going to step out of those boundaries unless they have a very good reason.
Yeah, and I think the trust is so important because as they get older, you're not with them all the time, and they have to make the right decisions in really challenging social norms of when to say no to something, when to stand up for themselves, when to say, well, that's not okay. And I think the more that we can also teach them life skills around those things by sharing our situations also helps them learn that it's okay. And what I found is myself sort of using my own learning situations as examples with my children. Like, I had a terrible bullying situation when I left to start my entrepreneurship. The company that I worked for and gave my soul for 10 years tried to sue me to stop me from starting. And I, was going through a really challenging time to be able to even start my business. And a long story short, they settled out of court and I won. But as I was going through that, I explained to the children, that this is what's happening and this is why I'm needing to do this. And mommy's going to be working a bit more, and I think just making them understand. And you probably do the same if you travel, to say, well, how you have all these nice things. Mommy's going to work to be able to have all these nice things. So understanding, I think, is really, really important. And then showing them how to behave. We're very lucky. We're incredibly close family. So we socialize together, myself and my siblings, with my mom and dad. We have Christmas together, Easter together, New Year's together. And so we're a very close family. So we socialize together as friends. And I think that example also sets an amazing example for our children, because they've actually said, I just love it that you're all such good friends and hang out together and enjoy each other's company. And now that they can be a part of that, be playing card games with the multiple generations, or playing Monopoly, or socializing and doing those things together.
Thank you so much, Carmen, for talking to us, because I think we've got such interesting perspectives. Manoj and I discussed all of this just, before we got onto the call, and very, very similar perspectives. And it's very heartening to know that, look, parenting is the same everywhere in the world. A parent is the same everywhere. Our challenges are the same. What we go through is the same. And usually we deal with it the same way. So it's really interesting. It was wonderful because there's just so many things that resonated and so many things that are so similar. So in summary, Manoj, we've had a very interesting discussion today. In summary, what practical tips can you give to parents to maintain this dynamic between having boundaries, and being friends, and which situations require boundaries, and which are the other situations, which would be all other situations where friendship and the emotional support works.
Absolutely. I think balance is the right word. First and foremost, parents are role models, and they have to take that job seriously, which means a lot of self-control is required by parents. And yes, it may involve some degree of sacrifice of parents, which I think they have to do, but I think it is very valuable. If they do it, it's very good for the children. Second, I feel that their understanding of children's situation has to be deeper, which means that what are children going through vis-a-vis what they went through 30 years back? Because the situation is different. It is a technology generation.
So they need to talk a lot more to
Yeah, they
their
need
children.
to communicate much more.
Ask
listen
a lot
much,
more questions.
Ask great questions, as you said, but also listen a lot. Listen to them and also their friends. For example, friends come for a football match or something. They should also talk to the friends, listen to the friends, because then a lot of insights will come out of that, which parents need to invest time. For this understanding needs time. So my second request is invest time, please. I think that's very important. Third thing is that if there is a issue where there is a difference of opinion between parents and child, and there could be issues. If the issue is very small and has no long-term implications, then you can still just give a nudge and leave it to the child. Maybe the child understands your point of view. But if it is a serious issue, then I think you need to take child back to the core values which you have taught the child. You have taught the child core values. I think core values have to come up at front at that point.
Yeah.
Also, the logic and justification of and the rationality of what you're saying has to be explained in a nice way.
I'll also add to your summary that the initial years of parenting, you're not really being a friend, but you're doing what we call gentle emotional boundary setting, value building in the child. And that is absolutely non-negotiable for parents. So from that age of, say, 0 to 10, that is the job that you do. You allow them to fail and you pick them up and you tell them it's all right, dust off everything, and we've got to keep moving. So that children are not afraid of failure, so they don't get into the habit of lying. And thereafter, this entire journey, which becomes difficult for parents to navigate, where they cannot be friends anymore. Thank you for tuning in to the Good Parent podcast, where we're redefining parenthood for you. This is Shailja Dutt, and this is
Manoj, Kohli.
signing off.
Thank you.